What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, earlier today I was browsing Reddit, as you do, and I came across this story on r/IDOWorkHereLady. I just skimmed through it a little bit, and honestly it's way too good not to share with you guys, so here we go. Scammer insists I don't work at the bank. So the title pretty much sums it up. I work at a bank, and one of the most common queries we get from customers is if a phone call they have received is actually from us or is a scam. This happened when I'd only been working at the bank for a few months, but a customer came in saying he'd been getting multiple phone calls a day from the bank, saying he needed to transfer money out to a safe account, so he came in to see what was actually going on. After checking records, it definitely was not us calling him. Top tip, your bank would never ask you to transfer money anywhere. I told him to stop answering the phone and just block the number. It was at this point they tried calling him again, so we decided to have some fun. The customer answered the phone and the scammer started the spiel that he needed to go into the bank and transfer money straight away. It was urgent, but to tell us that the money was for family. He replied, "Well, I'm actually in the bank right now. I'll hand you to the cashier and you can tell her the details." I didn't know what to expect down the other end of the phone, but after introducing myself to the scammer, who at this point was probably in a panic, they started cursing at me and telling me it was wrong for me to pretend to work for a bank. How dare I put people in danger and try to steal their money? I then pointed out that it was he, in fact, that was doing that, and again got, "You don't work for the bank, you are a scammer, blah blah blah." The customer and myself let him go on for another minute and then just hung up. Surprisingly, this has happened to other colleagues of mine. I don't know what the scammers think they're going to achieve at this point, because the customer is obviously not going to believe an anonymous person on the phone who's saying that the fully uniformed employee in front of them doesn't actually work for the bank, but who knows. Arguing back with scammers can be a bit of fun for us, especially knowing some of the damage they cause. Yeah guys, I could not agree more with this last sentence. If there's anyone who deserves this sort of karma, it is scammers. You know, the way they make their money is absolutely horrible, usually preying on elderly people who just don't really know what they're doing. You know, they're not tech savvy and they're just stealing money at the end of the day and exploiting people who don't know better. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. But let's just talk about this scammer for a second and how idiotic he must be. I mean, I get it, you go along with it for as long as possible, trying to extract money out of this person, but then surely when they're in a bank with an actual employee of a bank and the person is saying, "No, I'm a real bank employee, I work here," why are you then saying, "No, you're lying to the customer, why are you trying to steal their money," when you're the one that's really trying to steal their money? I mean, at that point, surely the jig is up. Like, give up at that point, surely. I don't really understand, like, what is this argument at that point? Oh, the building you've got into isn't actually a bank. Yeah, don't worry about the ATMs, you know, the tellers behind the store. Like, don't worry about all of that. You know, the loads of money that's downstairs in the safe. But forget about that. It's not really a bank. It's all a big, you know, facade to get you to give you their money and then they'll steal it. You know, a massive truck's going to come as soon as you leave and take it away to, you know, a highly secretive location that you can never get your money back from. I just don't get the logic here at all. Anyway, now moving on to our second story. Lady thought I was breaking into her neighbor's house. Last summer, I was house sitting for a neighborhood lady I knew. I had to walk over there twice a day to feed her cat and let out her dog and just other general stuff. She was kind of a hoarder, so I didn't exactly hang out inside, just play with her dog in the back. On the fourth day, I'm getting her mail, and her neighbor walks over and goes, "You know that's illegal?" I was like, "What?" So she said, "Opening her mail, that's a crime. So is breaking into her house every day." I was mad at this point, and as an angsty teenager, I said, "Shut up, I'm allowed to be here." Then I grabbed the mail, flipped her off, and walked inside. I watched out the window as she went back to her house, so I did my job, fed the cat, and took the dog out in the back. That's when I hear a police car. Turns out that female dog called the police on me and told them I was breaking into her neighbor's house and she feared for her family's safety. I'm a scrawny white girl, not exactly FBI's most wanted. Alright, I've just got to interject here for a second. Maybe it's a little bit too much to call the police, but you haven't exactly covered yourself in glory here, OP. The person was literally just asking, "Who are you and why are you in my neighbor's house?" You could have said you were house sitting rather than saying, "Oh no, F off," and then flipping them off. Am I wrong here? I feel like this all could have been avoided. Anyway, let's carry on with the story. So I went out in the front with the dog and Karen is pointing at me and screaming that I'm breaking the law, and the cop takes one look at me and is like, yeah, sure. He eventually got her to go to her house and get a water or something while he arrested me. I explained to him that I was house sitting and showed him my key. He believed me and told me to finish up and he'd drive me home for my safety. The guy was chill, like late 20s I guess. So I put the dog up and locked the door and come back out to see Karen leaving her house. So I go down the driveway to the police car and she starts yelling at him again to arrest me. He has me get in the front seat of the car with the window rolled down while he tried to calm her down. He explains that I'm house sitting and it's not illegal to bring in someone else's mail. All of a sudden, she gasps and backs up and yells, "Oh my gosh, she's bribing you with sex! I'm calling the police!" The cop looked completely shocked, so she dials 911 and starts yelling into the phone. Meanwhile, the cop goes around to the back of the car and radios something in. Wait, surely the police were already there, didn't you just call them? About 5 minutes of her yelling later, another cop shows up and she walks over and talks to the other cop. Karen then runs over and starts yelling that I'm a prostitute and was going to kill her family? The girl cop ignored her and came over to my window and says, "Okay, I'm gonna drive you home, sweetie. That alright?" I said yeah, but Karen didn't like that and she started yelling again. But the cop spun around and said, "Mom, I suggest you stop. Making frivolous 911 calls is a misdemeanor and this girl has done nothing illegal." She then had me get in her car and she drove me home. I never saw the Karen lady again. Alright, so the second half of this story clearly shows that this Karen is crazy, but I'm not gonna lie, I do agree with her that calling the police, you know, in the first instance makes a lot of sense. As I said before, you have no idea who this person is. Again, OP, you should have just said to her, "Look, I've got the keys," you know, in the same way you showed the keys to the cop later in the story. You could have done that earlier to avoid all of this, but then again, yeah, the entitled Karen got quite entitled later in the story. The stuff about sex, prostitution, that's obviously all BS. I'm not really sure where that came from. Overall, a weird story, let's just say that. Now moving on to our final story of today's I Do Work Here Lady video, nearly arrested for cleaning up. So, background. I work in a high school, but have been out and not allowed to return to my room since mid-March. Also, I look young with my mask on. Without it, you can easily tell I'm in my 30s. So we finally received our designated times to empty out our classrooms for the summer. Unfortunately, I'm just a paraprofessional, not a full teacher, so I don't even know if I'll even have a job in the fall with the school. I decide to go and fully empty my desk of all personal belongings and extra snacks that I always keep in there. Nothing that went bad, but stuff I keep on hand in case of low blood sugar. It is important to note that we've been authorized for casual wear, so many of us showed up in simple shorts and t-shirts. Most of my co-workers recognized me with the mask. However, the school recently hired a new principal and police officer the week prior to all of this fun. As I finish, I begin to walk out of my room through the halls. I manage to get to a section of hallway near my parked car when the officer comes around the corner and tells me to freeze. "The school is closed. No students allowed. Put the bag on the ground and step back with your hands in the air. If you thought you could sneak in and steal some stuff, you are mistaken. I'm employed with the school." As I offer to show my ID, the new principal comes around the corner and joins in this mess. The principal says to the officer, "I told you I saw a kid stealing. Arrest him now while I notify the other officers." At this point, the officer has my ID in hand and looks at me. I go to remove my mask and he drops his hand towards his holster and shouts at me not to move. Rather than risk getting tased, I call down the hall to a group of teachers who know me well enough. The officer tells them to stay back, but one of the teachers happens to be the JORTC teacher, who many officers know well, as he regularly helps teach defense classes in the community. I should also mention he retired quite high in the military and everyone respects him even more for it. The colonel says, "Calm down, officer. He has been here for a year and a half and isn't that dang young." He proceeds to walk over and signal for me to remove my mask. Once the officer sees my beard pop into view and matches it to my ID, he begins to apologize profusely while getting upset at the principal, who has now turned red in embarrassment. I told him it was okay considering the circumstances and that I would not be upset or report him. Oh wow, you know, the thing that scares me the most about this story is the speed in which this officer went for his gun. Like, even if it was just a taser, you don't want to do that. I don't really understand why you would simply go for your gun instantly. Surely, you know, just calm the situation down calmly before reaching for, you know, a pistol or a taser that could potentially really harm somebody. Just my opinion, but you know, that's what I would have done in this situation. And furthermore, why does a school have to have a police officer on the whole? Like, maybe it's in the US, this story, and I guess that makes some sense, but the whole idea of there being police officers inside a school on duty, I don't really like that at all. Yes, if the worst comes to the worst, of course it makes sense if there is a shooter, but just day to day, yeah, you know what, the more I say it, the more it does make sense, I'll be honest. I guess it's just a shame. My point is, it's just a shame that there has to be a police officer in a school. You know, it just sucks, doesn't it, really? Anyway guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/IDOWorkHereLady. If you have enjoyed it and you want more of this subreddit right away from me, I've got a playlist on the screen right now for you to watch all these videos. Also, drop a like and comment down below if you do want to see more from this subreddit. You know, it just lets me know that you guys want to see more, and I'll bring you more than just once every month, maybe once every week, once every 2 weeks, that sort of thing. And finally, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you never miss one of my daily uploads. And with that, I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video on the channel.